in the night of the Black Knives, Godwyn the Golden was first to perish.
There are three major players behind the Knights of the Black Knives: Ranni, Melina, and Marika. Before explaining the event itself, I'll first talk about them so that the full narrative context can be contemplated. Ranni was, allegedly, Renala's daughter with Radagon. However, in truth, she was secretly a bastard of Radagon and Marika. She's not just the only children of Renala born Empyrean, but also the only to have orange hair. Rykard's hair was a muddy brown, and Radahn inherited his father's flaming red. In fact, Ranni's original hair color fits perfectly in the middle of Mesmer's and Malenia's red hair, and Miquella's golden blonde hair. All of Marika's children with Radagon were born Empyreans, and all of Marika's and Radagon's children with other consorts were not. Ranni's birth was kept a secret, and she was raised as Renala's legitimate daughter. The very title of the Cuckoo Order of Knights hints at Ranni being a bastard. Cuckoos are birds that place their eggs on other birds' nests, and their offspring is raised by the mother of the other species. Renala loves Radagon with all her heart. She loved him so much as to spiral into madness and depression upon their separation. It's entirely likely that she'd raise one of Radagon's bastards as her own. She is the mother bird in the cuckoo metaphor, which is why there is so much egg and nest symbolism tied to her. Melina was born at the foot of the Earth Tree, in the place later known as Nameless Eternal City. After Marika had imparted her with a duty, she abandoned her, thus leaving her without a mother. Melina was raised at the Nameless Eternal City, among the nobility. The duty Melina was imparted with was to aid Marika in her grand conspiracy to rid the world of the influence of the Outer Gods, emancipating men who'd rule the age to come. Marika ordered Ranni to steal a fragment of the Rune of Death to forge god-slaying weapons, as she herself couldn't go against her shadow, Maliketh. Ranni gifted Rykard a special stone engraved with a fragment of the Rune of Death. He was to employ it against Maliketh, should he need to face the Beast of Destin's death one day. Then, she'd gift the fragment of the Rune of Death to Melina, and kill her Empyrean body to free her spirit from the influence of the Greater Will. The Fingerslayer blade was one of the weapons forged with the Rune of Death, and was employed by Melina to kill her pair of fingers. Melina then became the gloam-eyed queen, and led the Scions of the Eternal Cities in a hunt against the demigods of the Golden lineage. Godwyn, the Golden, was first to perish. A mark of the Rune of Death was carved onto his back, at the same time as Ranni's death, causing each to die only in spirit and body, respectively. Godwyn's body would be buried at the foot of the Earth Tree, at Melina's birthplace. Its corruption by death would contaminate the roots of the Earth Tree, halting their absorption of souls, and creating the next generation of those who live in death through the spread of Deathroot. The Scions led by Melina can be divided into two groups. The woman wielded the Black Knives, weapons imbued with the powers of the Rune of Death, and conducted stealthy assassinations. It's interesting to note that Melina shares a moveset with the Black Knife assassins. The men became the Godskins and wielded the powers of the Black Flame, a form of incantation that derives its power from the Rune of Death, which is why the Black Flame weakened after the sealing of the Rune of Death. Melina would flay the corpses of the felled demigods and sew their skin to create robes for the male Scions, which earns them the Godskin title. This practice was a reprise of something Melina's mother, Marika, had done in the past. She had flayed innumerable corpses of Hornstens to extract their souls, which she is seen wielding in the story trailer, to conduct the ritual that engulfed the Great Tree, along with the epicenter of the Hornsten civilization in shadow for eternity. Of course, in the case of the Godskins, the souls were employed to strengthen their own selves. To be clear, this rite of skinning has to do with the very nature of souls. Souls flow through one's body and so can be physically extracted from underneath the skin. Melina would act as a motherly figure to them. Despite being raised motherless, she inherited Marika's nurturing traits. The Godskins have also inherited the powers of a serpent deity, which was skin for its soul to be absorbed by them as well. This is why some of them boast tails and can stretch like snakes, and why their inhuman physiology is related to the Crucible. They have absorbed life energy and mutated into chimeric beings as a result. The gloam-eyed queen would be bested by Maliketh, who commanded the Black Blade kindred to fight the conspirators. This is why there are various broken Black Blade kindred at the nameless Eternal City, as well as a pair of valiant gargoyles at Siofra. This effort earned Maliketh his infamous reputation as Death of the Demigods. Melina's body was burnt as a result of her defeat, and the Rune of Death was retrieved by Maliketh and sealed within his body so that it would never be stolen again. He'd go on to hide in Farum Azula, the most secret and distant place in all of the lands between. As punishment for their treason, the scions of the Eternal Cities were banished to the deep underground and forced to live under a false night sky. The Night of the Black Knives was a conspiracy orchestrated by Marika, the first step to rid the world of the influence of the Greater Will. She'd create a major conflict that resulted in the death of countless demigods. The scions of the Eternal Cities who were felled during this event would be decapitated in death rites that aimed to appease the death birds. The knights who served them were beheaded as well, and their spirits animated the mausoleums, which would wander around until exorcised by the Tarnished. The Night of the Black Knives was later perceived as a catalyst for the shattering of the Elden Ring by Marika, a major event that triggered a war among her offspring. Ranni wouldn't participate in the shattering, as she was placed under a coma due to her corporal death. However, she'd later persuade the Tarnished to bring forth an Age of Stars, following her own vision for Marika's plan.
I do solemnly swear to every living being and every living soul. Now cometh the age of the stars. 1,000-year voyage under the wisdom of the moon.
Godwyn was the first of the demigods targeted for assassination for both thematic and narrative reasons. He was the firstborn of Marika and Godfrey, the first of the Golden lineage, as well as the first of the demigods to die. He was portrayed as the closest character Elden Ring's got to a pure, gold-hearted, powerful, heroic figure, and unlike his youngest brothers, he wasn't born afflicted with a curse. Godwyn's lack of character flaws made him deserving of the most tragic fate of all. This ties into the narrative reason for his assassination, which is that he was the perfect consort for Miquella. Miquella had been working to bring forth his age of kindness for a long time. He had watered a sapling with his blood, which grew into the Halig tree, the tree that would replace the Earth tree as a conduit for the One Great. He had been amassing forces to build an army that would rebel against the Golden Order. He wanted a mighty, fitting consort to conquer the lands between, as Godfrey once did, as well as to produce a dynasty with, a new lineage of demigods. He made a vow with 3 suitable candidates: Godwyn, his first choice, Radahn, his second, and Mohg, his third. And so, Miquella was the main enemy of Marika's conspiracy. Godwyn had to perish eventually, and it would be better if it happened sooner rather than later. Miquella went to great lengths to attempt to revive Godwyn, to grant him a true death as to recover either his body or soul, but ultimately his plans failed, and he had to resort to imbuing Radahn's soul into Mohg's body. After the Night of the Black Knives, the Black Knife assassins were scorned and persecuted by the Golden Order. They'd find solace at Miquella's Haligtree and swear their allegiance to Miquella. Some of them serve as guards to the Waygate to the Haligtree at Ordina, the liturgical town. Others served as assassins and would make an attempt on Ranni's life following Miquella's orders.